This is lesson 3-2, Properties of Parallel Lines. Now we learned yesterday what parallel lines were, and we'd also talked about a transversal and the different types of angles. So we're basically going to just take all those angles and we're going to apply them to parallel lines, and there's certain properties that are true. So when two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the special angle pairs formed are congruent or supplementary. So you only have two choices. The angles that are formed that we talked about yesterday, those angle pairs, alternate interior, alternate exterior, corresponding angles, they're either going to be congruent to each other, the angles, or they will be supplementary. And a lot of times you can even tell by looking at the picture whether they're congruent or supplementary. Remember, supplementary means that they add up to 180 degrees. So two angles whose sum is 180 degrees. If a transversal intersects two parallel lines, then the same side interior angles are supplementary. So remember, the interior angles are the angles in between the parallel lines. So 3, 4, 5, and 6 are my interior angles. The same side interior angles. And this is telling me that line L is parallel to line M. We can also see it by the notation on the picture. This little red symbol there is showing that they're parallel. So these same side interior angles 3 and 6 are supplementary. 4 and 5 are supplementary. So we're going to add this into our notes. The measure of angle 4 plus the measure of angle 5 equals 180 degrees. The measure of angle 3 plus the measure of angle 6 equals 180 degrees. Okay, so that's one of the first rules that we've learned. So same side interior angles are supplementary. And 3 and 6, they don't look congruent. You can tell by looking at the picture. 3 is an obtuse angle, 6 is an acute angle. Okay, now the second thing we're going to go over are alternate interior angles. Remember, interior angles 3, 4, 5, and 6, the ones in between the parallel lines. And again, L is parallel to M. But my alternate interior angles will be like 4 and 6 and 3 and 5. My alternate interior angles are congruent to each other. So 4 and 6 are interior angles, and they're on opposite sides of the transversal. They're alternate interior angles. They are congruent. Angle 4 is congruent to angle 6. Angle 3 and angle 5 are interior angles, and they're on opposite sides of that transversal. So they are also alternate interior angles. They are congruent. Angle 3 is congruent to angle 5. Another angle pair that we talked about yesterday were corresponding angles. If, again, L is parallel to M, so we're talking about parallel lines, all of these lines today are parallel, the corresponding angles, and I have them color-coded here, remember, they're both in the same position, they're both on the same side of the transversal, and like 1 and 5, they're to the left of the transversal and they're above the line. 4 and 8 are to the left of the transversal, but they're below the line. 2 and 6 are to the right of the transversal, but above the line. Corresponding angles are also going to be congruent. So if L is parallel to M, then 1 and 5 are congruent, 4 and 8 are congruent, 2 and 6 are congruent, and 3 and 7 are congruent. So angle 1 is congruent to angle 5. They are corresponding angles, they're congruent. Angle 2 is congruent to angle 6. Angle 3 is congruent to angle 7. And angle 4 is congruent to angle 8. So those are all corresponding angles, and they look congruent to each other. And we're going to see in a minute, if I give you one angle, you actually can figure out all the remaining 7 angles. And then we have our alternate exterior angles. My exterior angles are outside of the parallel line, so 1, 2, 7, and 8. And my alternate exterior angles are also going to be congruent to each other. So L is parallel to M again. 1 and 7, they're alternate exterior angles, they're congruent. 2 and 8 are alternate exterior angles. They are congruent to each other. So angle 1 is congruent to angle 7, and angle 2 is congruent to angle 8. Okay, so you have all these notes, and tomorrow you come in, we're going to practice all these with actual measures for the angles. That's it for today.